Oh my god.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to ArtiFact number 30. I am joined by Dan Schneider, and we will be discussing the world's premier environmentalist, Elon Musk, as he likes to fancy himself. We're just going to be talking about his antics, the fact that he's established this cult of personality, how little he has, in fact, accomplished. And how very quickly, even among the accomplishments that he has, he seems to be very much not only wearing out his welcome, but also just progressively making fewer and fewer of those accomplishments, right? EVs, to the extent that they're going to do anything long term for the planet. What it seems to me like, and this is how I would differentiate perhaps Elon Musk from many other CEOs. Maybe he did have some of these environmentalist pretensions. He was able to sort of popularize from a niche industry to something that's kind of becoming larger and larger, this concept of electric vehicles. But it does seem to me that Elon Musk, at best, he sort of moved EVs to the mainstream by about maybe 4 or 5 years. I get the feeling if you take him out of the equation, Elon Musk probably, or rather EVs, won't really be that different numerically like 10, 15, 20 years from now. It will only go at the pace of whatever the material constraints are to get EVs. So anyway, just some interesting little introductory notes for Elon as we tackle him kind of like from beginning to end to where he's sort of like ended up now. Dan, do you have anything you want to say about Elon by way of introduction?
I saw a photo of him the other day. He was on some yacht with some other rich billionaire. I forget what, I saw it on my cell phone. And boy, he's like 47, 48. Maybe is he 50 now? And he's pale as a ghost. I mean, I look like I'm from one of the African tribes compared to him. He's sunken chest and got a big pot belly, and someone was saying like he must suffer from vitamin D
Deficiency, yeah.
because I mean he has olive oil. If you ever saw the old Popeye cartoons or the old Mickey Mouse cartoons, at the point he has those kind of arms. They just look rubbery. He has absolutely no definition, no muscle mass, and it's like this guy is the living embodiment of the idle rich,
right? If you see his how his face changed over time, it's definitely become more masculine over time, whether that's due to plastic surgery or testosterone injections into his ass, right? Who knows what
Jeff
it is.
Bezos at least muscled up. And the funny thing, a year ago, there was a famous tweet or something when Musk was calling out Bill Gates for having man tits, but Bill Gates is like 22 years older than him or something.
Yeah, and Musk is very fast on his way to looking worse than Gates, right? But anyway, enough with the body shaming, Dan. Let's get into some of this substance. And I'm going to start to kind of like frame this conversation. I'm going to use this Elon Musk tweet that I think is very telling on a number of levels. I'm going to do the screen share later. But anyway, so this tweet, right? I wish that I am able to find it. It was something that he liked maybe months and months ago, or maybe last year. I'm not going to dig through all of Elon Musk's trash to dig it up. But basically, it was along the lines of somebody tweeted out something like, the problem with wokeism is that it's an ideology, or by wokeism, let's just call it like political correctness in general, which Elon Musk also hates. And they're saying the problem with that ideology is it's a means of trying to avoid personal responsibility while going on and on and on about this like idea of justice. And the reason why I found this funny is pretty much anybody in Elon Musk's category, right? A billionaire, right? Especially someone that had so much of his life essentially handed to him. But pretty much, any billionaire, almost like by definition, what they're able to get away with in terms of not taking personal responsibility, right, is almost infinite, right? The more wealth that you have, the more and more you're able to get away from doing, all kinds of crazy stuff, whether it's Elon Musk tweeting things out like, I'm going to take Tesla at private at the price of 420 in reference to a marijuana meme. Like you would think like, well, if this was a letter to shareholders, what would the punishment be, right? So the SEC went after him. They fined him something like 20 million, and they fined the company 20 million, and he wasn't allowed to be, I think, the chairman, whatever the punishment was. But the point is, and this point has been made before, if you're able to sort of pay your way out of a fine, pay your way out of any situation that you get yourself into, the fact is it's not illegal, right? If you could pay your way out, it's not actually illegal for you to do so. It's only illegal for the people that can't pay out. They're going to have to go to prison. They're going to have, to them, like $20 million might be far steeper consequences, even if there's no jail time, right? So the stakes are simply different, right? So, he's someone that has at this point inserted himself into the whole kind of a cultural conversation in a way that is totally unnecessary, because it's just left and right hypocrisy, right? His involvement in politics is overwhelmingly for the negative, right? We're going to go over some of his COVID disinformation early on. He was saying things back in like March 2020 that COVID was over. Trends are indicating that we're going to have 0 new cases by April 2020. And, like 3 million deaths later, probably by 2024, 25 or whatever, right? It's going to go down as one of those horrible predictions that are also just based on and that's the other thing. Like, we're also going to talk about this kind of like geeky obsession with data that comes at the expense of understanding data, putting that data into context. There's something off going on there. The worship of data, stripped of any context, it's just like an American thing. Although he's a foreigner, he's very American in the most substantive respects. So yeah,
Musk seems to be sort of like if Donald Trump raped Ray Kurzweil and Kurzweil gave birth to Musk, because Musk is wrong about just about everything he says outside of his own business ventures, just like Kurzweil's ridiculously long record of failure prediction. Musk is someone who, like Donald Trump, is a fraud. He started out rich. His father made all his wealth. And I'm not saying huzzah to his father. He probably made his wealth off the backs of a lot of blacks. And I know he supposedly was more enlightened than that, but that's like saying he was a good Nazi. Trump, just like Trump, Musk takes credit for things he didn't do. Musk even tries to portray himself as a scientist, and there are some hilarious videos where he's talking about simulation hypothesis. We got to talk about that before the end.
We're gonna play that video. Yeah, we're gonna talk about it.
The guy thinks he's the guy. Like I said, he's the bastard spawn of Ray Kurzweil and Donald Trump, but he thinks he's sort of like a cross between Socrates and Superman.
Yeah. It's kind of funny, like when you view Elon Musk's like current fixation. I'm not sure how much he cares about acquiring Twitter now, but his ostensible reason is, I care so much about free speech. I'm a free speech warrior. But he's someone that quite literally has tried to change reality and the understanding that human beings have of like baseline reality through money, right? He's
a free speech advocate unless you work for him and you want to be in a union.
Yeah, so he makes people sign NDAs. There used to be all these NDAs that you had to sign if you were to purchase his cars, right? We're going to get to that in a little bit, right? Where when they would have different kinds of problems, instead of doing the normal thing, which is, okay, you have to report it to, I forget the automotive body that does these regulations in America, but you had to do this repair, you had to report it to them and sort of go through official channels. He would force you to sign an NDA so that he would have this like in-house repair, so that he wouldn't have to talk about either lemon cars or other problems like rates of breakdown, whatever. So there's those examples. But there's also the fact that, for instance, he was not the founder of Tesla, right? So Tesla is a company that he acquired, right? He was also not actually the founder of PayPal, right? It was a merger right? And various people work on various things, but specifically
But
with
he did
Tesla.
speak himself into being the founder.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly. So yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Like he uses money, right? The fact that he has that pull, the fact that he has wealth to now, whenever it's part of a discussion, whenever there's like legal documents being drawn up, he's now listed officially as one of the founders of Tesla, right? So it's very weird, right? You on the one hand are claiming that you're a free speech warrior, but you're trying to literally change baseline reality, and you're trying to bully your way into doing that by a means that should not have any sort of relationship with reality, which is money, right, to the extent that SpaceX would continue to exist, right, it also occupies this very strange space where the only reason why SpaceX exists is, first of all, we have decades and decades of public investment, right, public commons, NASA, stuff like that, that people had to pay billions and billions of dollars into just so that we could have the infrastructure for companies down the road like SpaceX to come around. And the only reason why these companies exist is because, for whatever reason, society has decided collectively, or perhaps we're bullied into this, against spending on things like space, right? Against spending on NASA. So just like private schools
he's a
fill
self-made
these
man.
niches.
The self-made man does it all by himself. He builds the roads that bring goods to
Mm-hmm.
his factory. He built the factory by himself. I'm sure at some point before he dies, he's going to claim that he traveled through time, and he gave Alexander the Fleming. He said to Fleming, "Hey, that green fungus on your desk there, that's valuable. Don't
Mm-hmm.
whitewash it away." Musk is going to claim he came up with the cure, or came up with penicillin. I mean, it's ridiculous. He's one of these people who lies so often. I
Yeah.
mean, he's a bit slicker than Donald Trump in the sense that he can get more intelligent people to believe his lies. So he's, in that sense, a better liar than Donald Trump, but he's a liar nonetheless. He's unoriginal. And it just amazes me how people fall for people like he's Trump 2.0. He's a kinder, gentler Trump.
That kind of explains why Trump and Elon Musk might hate each other so much at this point, right?
They're two alphas.
They're literally like and not just two alphas, but they have identical set of strategies, right? Identical kind of set of, like, we're going to move along simply by a bombastic personality, as opposed to actually delivering, right? I mean, think about how little Donald Trump has done for Americans, and he literally, like, in broad daylight, like, murders 500,000 of them, and still there's like almost what was like 80 million people or whatever it was that wanted to vote for him, right? That did vote for him.
Well, did you
Elon,
hear the latest? Did you hear the latest? I saw a
what?
thing that apparently the reason Trump, they're saying, took the documents was that if they indicted him, he was going to threaten to expose secrets. So that, I mean, the Donald Trump was possibly literally wanting to blackmail the American government to let him
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. So, and yeah, like, this is not something that would be beyond Elon Musk as well, right? I mean, he's definitely done things at minimum that you could call, like, sort of like blackmail adjacent, right? To the extent that, like, an NDA is a kind of like blackmail, right? You're essentially like paid off, right? And if you break it, right, we're gonna try to ruin your life. But let's go to his, like, early history, right, which is kind of interesting. So he often talks about two things. Number one, how much he hates his father, who was the co-owner of a emerald mine in Zaire, which is now the Congo. And the second thing that he says is, uh, growing up, him and his father were always, like, against apartheid, right? And some friends that I know that are perhaps more conservative, that are like in financials, and maybe see some positives in Musk for whatever reason, they would say things to me, but Alex, look at his very complicated commentary on his father. He tears up whenever he talks about them. He says how much he hates him. He says what an evil man he is. And my response to all that is always, well, to what extent is the evil that he sees in his father merely like a reflection of what he, on some level, must see in himself? Because look, you could virtue signal all you want about he was an anti-apartheid politician, but the fact is, like, if you're the co-owner of an emerald mine in Zaire, there's gonna have to be something that is at minimum like slave labor-esque, right? When it comes to the people that are doing that mining. And they're going to be black people. Now, granted, Zaire is not, or rather the Congo is not South Africa, but you can't, on the one hand, hope to get credit for being anti-apartheid, and then on the other hand, do something that is probably even worse than what was going on in South Africa, right? In these emerald mines. So, and also like, there's also interesting parts like the fact that his father seems to like have spent his life trying to impregnate as many people as possible. And he says, babies, babies, babies. This is kind of like the world's future. We have to make as many kids as possible. This is what he explicitly says is like what men ought to be doing.
Oh, and Elon takes that to heart.
Yeah, and we come to find out that Elon Musk has all these kids that nobody knows about. He has kids with literal employees, right? That nobody knows about, right? And you just think like if this was like some sort of like fucking like a black basketball player, all the conservatives would be like, oh my god, like absolutely no responsibility. How dare you, sire 10 different kids by 10 different mothers? But he not only gets his free pass, like he's literally able to be on he's able to be on Twitter joking about it, and other people are jumping in on these jokes. If a black guy were to do this kind of shit, though, they'd be making fun of him, right? So he's able to get away with a lot.
Whether or not his father was a kinder, gentler King Leopold, the fact is that his father has also disowned and disavowed him, and Elon Musk, one of his daughters, who's trans, has disavowed him.
Yeah, we don't know the exact details about that, but she probably just sees like what he gets up to. He sees the crowd that is interested in Elon Musk, and she I'm guessing she might say like, I don't want anything to do with this shit. This is not the life that I signed up for. Yeah, so let's talk like in the abstract, this idea of like being self-made. So first of all, he's not self-made in the sense that, he comes from a wealthy family, right? Obviously, he had tons of servants growing up, all of that.
There's no one. There was no one.
Yeah. That's what I want to get
the
to.
Last self-made man was the
like,
head of the Rock clan that beat the hell out of the clan across the river.
Yeah.
That's the last self-made man.
Yeah, I've never understood this like fixation, just like philosophically. What does it mean to be self-made? Like the causal chain, like even if like no matter where you are, but especially let's say like you're in America, even if you grow up in poverty in America, right, and you end up becoming a billionaire, that is still not self-made because the causal chain, where does it begin? Well, with you specifically, you grew up where? In America, which means you did not grow up where? You did not grow up in Somalia. You did not grow up as an emerald miner in Zaire, right? You did not grow up in a little village in India. So that in and of itself, you have advantages to start with. If you're living in America, you have a police force that maybe by the mere existence of a police force, since you don't have a state of anarchy, it means you didn't get murdered, right? Maybe you're able to have two parents as opposed to one, or maybe you're able to have one parent, which is better than having zero parents, right? So just philosophically speaking, this idea of being self-made, it literally cannot happen anywhere.
But even the thing, the self-made moniker is always financial. I could say for myself, I would be wrong, but I could say I'm a great writer. I'm the greatest poet. I'm self-made in those areas or whatnot. Now, that would be wrong because, well, I've read Whitman. I've read, named the top 200 poets who ever published beforehand. I probably read them all and probably read, if not everything they ever wrote poetically. I have been, when Cosmoetica was at its peak, I still get, a couple of dozen email submissions of poems a day. I was getting thousands, tens of thousands of poems a year. I could say, oh well, I've read more poetry than anyone else. But each of them, even bad poems here or there, little bits might have stuck in my mind. A word choice here, a word choice there. Even artistically, but they don't use a term like self-made man. How many people have ragged on me because I said, oh, I'm a great poet or a great writer, but yet Elon Musk can say he's a self-made man, which is de facto saying I am great in this aspect, even though it's wrong. But because it's about money here in America, especially, we don't mind that.
do you want to talk about like the role of government in all these companies, right? To just kind of go from self-made to kind of like the reality. So, I mean, I mentioned NASA a bit earlier, right? Like we've had billions of dollars and decades worth of investment that literally could not have come from any other source, right? The entire point of having some of these public investments is these are enterprises that in the short term, or perhaps even medium term, don't have an actual like financial payoff, right? If you decide that, I'm gonna go in space, right, and I'm gonna land a man on the moon for the first time ever, that's not really going to give you a ton of like financial returns, right? Maybe it's going to give you cultural capital. Maybe it's going to make America sort of the place that everybody wants to immigrate to, and you start taking in all this talent, blah 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 blah. But generally speaking, there is no clear financial benefit from doing something like NASA, right? We're still far away from doing things like interstellar mining, right? So you might sort of make contractors rich, but there's no actual sort of like net benefit for a long time, right? We had to build those foundations up so that we could have something like a SpaceX, right? We had to build up, a vehicle industry up before we could have something like electric vehicles, right? Mining capacity everywhere around the world, right? The governments are the ones that are sort of calling the shots here, right? So, just like beyond the abstract, just in these purely tangible terms, when you look at these companies, right, none of this is self-made. Everything is dependent upon the public commons. And the reason why Musk is such a toxic personality is the fact that he extracts so much from the public commons. He takes so much of public goods, and then he turns around and he says, I need my taxes to be lower. I need this. I need that. Right? It's extract as much as you can, and then give as little back as possible.
Well, who would really trust Musk to go to Mars? From you mentioned interstellar mine. Well, first we'd have to learn how to mine
Mhm.
the Oort cloud, the Kuiper belt, the asteroid belt, Mars, and the moon, in baby steps like that. But would anyone really want to go to Mars? I mean, Musk has said that he's going to put someone on Mars by 2030. I think this is another Ray Kurzweil type statement. But because even people in NASA say without any kind of infrastructure, a company like a single company, those people would basically be dead. I mean,
Yeah. And he'd be willing to make that gamble. He'd be willing to kill someone on the way to Mars, right?
yeah, obviously, but he's not going.
Yeah, he's not going. And it's one of those like it's so like if you think about it, it's so childlike, right? He wants to do this like Mars exploration. Maybe part of it is because he does truly believe intellectually that the way to save the planet is you need like multiple planets. But there's also like a ton of like motivated reasoning, right? He stands to benefit the most from any kind of like move to Mars. But more than anything, it's just so childlike, right? Like you see this planet, you see the problems in the planet, and instead of actually seriously dealing with these issues, right? You're saying, "Ooh, look, we have another toy. We have a shiny red planet. Ooh, after that, we have another planet." Right? It's like it's still that mentality of like sucking the commons dry and keep finding new planets where you could do the same thing again and again.
I remember 50 years ago, there was a Saturday morning cartoon called Yogi's Ark. Yogi Bear used to fly around this flying ark with all the Hanna-Barbera characters and whatnot. In one episode, Yogi and Boo Boo and all the gang landed on this paradisical island, uh, and they could have anything they wanted. But on the other half of the island, Boo Boo, I think, found out that there were these giant machines just ripping up palm trees and stuff
Mhm.
and leaving a wasteland to feed the nice side of the island. And I always think of that when I think of people like Musk and Trump and all of these people who just dismiss global warming or let's nuke Mars, and they make these statements. I mean, they just have no sense of sustainability. The whole nuking Mars thing. People say, "Oh," and Musk has disavowed himself, saying, "Oh, it was just an offhanded joke." But you can find, I think he first made that statement in 2012 or 2013. If you listen to that original statement, just like with the simulation hypothesis, some ass-kissing suck ass was basically treating him as if he was the Buddha and asking him directly, how are we going to colonize Mars? And he said it in all seriousness. And he said it several times in all seriousness.
I think he
And
said it like this year as well. I
yeah,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
But he's sometimes now he's trying to play it off because it's like, oh yeah, maybe it's not good to irradiate. Now, putting aside the fact, let's say if there's only microbes or viruses up there, putting aside the idea of nuking a whole planet and how many decades that would set colonization behind, it shows he has no real understanding of science, despite all of that stuff that he claims. He really doesn't understand science, and you watch these videos, whether it's on simulation hypothesis or it's on colonizing the asteroids or Mars, whatever nonsense comes into his mind, and it's just foolishness. It's like, but the only reason people take it seriously is because of money. Because people, especially here in the U.S., have this idea that if you can make money, that's the hardest thing in the world somehow. Con men have been making decent livings, since biblical times or before. The idea that because I'm able to, pull off some kind of maybe even technically legal pyramid scheme, this means that I have some philosophical depth or some scientific knowledge or whatnot. Look, I make no claims, for example, to being know anything about genetics other than what I read. I'm not going to say that, or if we're talking AI, but I'm not going to say, well, we're going to reach AI by 2060. I don't know. My guess is it's going to take longer than people think because it's a lot more complex and computers are not human brains. But I could be wrong. Someone like Musk doesn't have that kind of a filter to not say those things definitively. He thinks because he's rich, however he earned it, he knows things that other people don't know, and it's just bunkum.
Yeah, and another part of it, again, it just goes back to this idea of how much of this is just motivated reasoning to the ends of like making more and more money. Like he's been claiming for a very long time that Teslas are going to have autonomous driving, right? We're going to have autonomous driving, like true autonomous driving. And this actually caused like someone in his like AI team, like I think like the head, he was like stop making these bullshit claims, right? And eventually like one of them resigned. But the reason why he's saying that is because he wants more people to buy cars, right? If people think these are the cars of the future, if there's some sort of like AI sort of component to it, right? So he's making those claims like not only out of ignorance, but also like, how much can I squeeze out of this?
Not only that, but imagine this. Have you ever gotten a 404 error message on your computer?
Yeah.
So imagine that we have autonomous, automatic, or whatever you call AI cars. Well, suppose maybe it's someone in the Taliban, or it's communist China, or it's just Nigerian scam artists say, let's fuck up Los Angeles here, and we're going to send to all certain types of it. Imagine if you can just send a virus to one of these cars, and don't tell me that it can't happen. You send a virus to one of these automatic self-driving cars, you could slaughter hundred. You could, with a really good hacker, you could kill more people than were killed in 9/11 in one day. I guarantee that. This is why I will never. Just like if I was in Star Trek, I'd never get in a transporter because I'd be dead. I will never get in a self-driving car. Call me a Luddite if you will, but I'm not going in there.
Eventually, it's going to be in a situation where, like, okay, well, studies show that being in a plane is safer than driving a car, right? And at a certain level, you wouldn't really be able to argue it, but it's going to take a long time for that to occur, right? There's
not
no
in my lifetime.
Yeah, there's no indication that this is happening anytime soon, right? Maybe it's going to be sooner than we think, but the point is Elon Musk's own timetables here have been not just absolute bullshit, but they've probably been done simply for the sake of selling cars. And this actually, it's been partly controversial because it seems like some people have essentially kind of like gotten themselves into like either near death situations or have like essentially killed themselves simply because they did sort of think like, well, there is like a very strong, at least self-driving component here. They don't follow all the rules, right? Because on the one hand, like you might get like a manual that says you have to do this, you have to do that. But essentially, if Musk is also at the same time up there spouting bullshit about how these are truly self-driving, you might think, you know what, like that's just how people think, right? Maybe not one individual, but with enough people, right? We're talking about thousands, hundreds of thousands, perhaps millions of people. There's going to be people out there like that, right? And Musk is clearly not. He's not thinking about all this.
And he never thinks of the outcome. People, this is one of the things I don't think you've ever worked in corporate America, have you?
No, just city jobs.
CEOs never think about these basic flaws. Like I said, it would be. I mean, I when they talked about self-driving cars, my immediate reaction was, we don't even have reliable computers that can avoid. I mean, viruses. Forget about even things that mutate or whatnot.
Setting up Zoom to fucking do this interview. Always
Yeah,
always a little problem.
Yeah, there's always these problems, and here you're talking. The Zoom thing isn't going to kill you or me, but but CEOs never think that way. This is why it's money first, and this is one. And I don't want to get into the flaws of capitalism, but they never think of the logical outcomes, because they usually have a bunch of sycophants, cheering them on. This person who quit, and told Musk whatever and quit, that's the 1 in 100 employee that has a spine. And he probably is on some shit list and probably isn't going to be able to work in that industry for 10 years.
Well, I mean, if he's a top guy in AI, that's the thing. They're so kind of like if it's faddish enough, like that's the thing. He's probably someone that also feels like, okay, well, first of all, I'm highly educated, my skills are in high demand, so I'm going to be able to go elsewhere. And B, there's enough people that hate Musk. Like, for example, there's also this kind of like unstated rivalry between Mark Zuckerberg and Musk, right? I believe at some point when Musk was talking about, the coming sort of like, super intelligence and how this might cause like an apocalyptic event, Zuckerberg was like, you know what? Like he said, like literally, he just doesn't know what he's talking about when he talks about AI, and I wish he wouldn't ever talk about AI, right? So like you could always be absorbed, right? But there's also like people like they're maybe on the assembly line, maybe they're far more replaceable, and they're not going to say shit, right? They're subject to the NDAs. They're subject to whatever's happening, the market forces, right, employment, whatever. So it's gonna be much harder for them. And these are the people that you never hear from, right? And they always make up the bulk of any kind of workforce.
And just so someone knows, NDA means non-disclosure agreement, because you've said that a dozen times. I don't know what.
Like speaking of Musk's lies, I found this like so kind of this thing that he's saying here so egregious, and the fact that he's saying it with such a straight face, like, so this is Elon Musk talking about the EV market. There's EV credits that Teslas are no longer getting, right? So this is what he says.
Yeah, I mean, you'll certainly hear like, oh, Tesla and tax credits. I'm like, okay, well, currently we don't have the $7,500 tax credit does not apply to Tesla, but it does apply to our competitors. So anyone who has not made any company that's cumulative production below 200,000 cars has a $7,500 tax credit, and Tesla does not, because we've long ago exceeded the 200,000 car maximum. So Tesla is at a competitive disadvantage with respect to tax credits. That is quite significant when you're talking about, like, say, a $40,000 car and a $7,500 tax credit. That's like almost a 20% difference.
This reminds me of when the internet started, and they had state tax moratoriums for, and a lot of brick and mortar businesses will come. Well, if he already got his 200,000, what does he want? Let the other competitors get their 200,000 or whatever cars with the tax credit, and then in that time you'll develop something else. See, this is always at the bottom of all of these. I call them bottom. They all want something for nothing. Now he's complaining about his competitors, but he was ahead. Would he have ever been ahead without getting any of these tax credits?
Yeah, and this is the dishonesty. So first of all, to his credit, this is one of the uncommon interviews where he's in fact saying that, oh, by the way, Tesla used to get this tax credit, right? It was phased out simply because we got so big. Oftentimes when he's tweeting or he's talking about this like off the cuff elsewhere, he doesn't even mention that fact. But yeah, just to say that this is unfair because my competitors get it and I don't, there's no way to actually sort of track that thought experiment and sort of like
And
gauge that counterfactually.
let me give you a perfect example. You know that about 7 years ago, I got fired from a job I'd worked at for almost a decade. I was working at that job when you first contacted me. They got a 7-year property tax moratorium from the town that I live in, and they didn't have to pay a single dime. I paid more in property taxes than they did. Now, other companies, if you're a mom and pop business and you're a grocery store that has a new innovative thing, well, you only have 4 employees, not 400 like my store did, or 40 or 50,000. I've got some new innovative ideas. Town of Dan's, can I get some tax? No, it's only 4 people. You have to. So this is how things are always stacked against innovation, is because the people that get on top, they always want to get the things that they might, the very few that do get help, like Tesla obviously did. Once that expires, they still want it more. They want to keep being on the gravy train, and they don't want their competitors to have what they have, to see maybe their competitor can be better. And so this is why I say you shouldn't do that at all, unless it's something in national security interest, unless we're talking about, you're on the border with China and China's, threatening to invade or something, or Russia to Ukraine. Those are the only time, because that's why we have big beef, we have big corn, we have big oil, we have big steel, because we subsidize all of this. I don't have it for this show, but there was a guy who on Quora wrote one of the more really good piece about one of the problems with California and its water rights is the subsidies there. The subsidies were the things that made Californians be so wasteful with water when all that water was around. And now that the Colorado River is drying up, they're the big companies are so used to the subsidies that now that the water is drying up, they don't know what to do. So this is a bad thing. But you heard from Musk's own mouth, he wants to have an endless gravy train, as if he's owed it, not his company, he himself. There was a lot of personal hubris and a lot of personal, anger there, if you read between the lines.
Yeah, and a lot of these companies, right, when they get big enough after they sort of extract what they can out of these taxes, incentives, or whatever, they're the ones that immediately start lobbying against this, right? Because they want to just, they want to be the new entrenched interest. They want to maintain their stature, right, in these companies. And you wouldn't know it, like listening to Elon Musk there, right? He's talking about his competitors, but actually many of his competitors now, at least 2 or 3 companies this year, right? So that interview was like recorded back in like May or June or whatever. We already had like either GM or Toyota or like one of those two also had the tax credit phased out because they also have sold more than 200,000 vehicles, right? This year, you're probably going to get, a handful more. So progressively, all these other companies, right, they're becoming slowly in terms of the EV market, right? They're going to start saturating it.
Here's why he's not smart. This is a perfect example. He's arguing against these tax credits because my competitors are getting them, not me. If he was smart, if he was really smart, he'd say, I want these tax credits for all EV companies because EVs are more globally, more green for the environment. Now you can argue about whether where the electricity comes from and if that's coming from green sources. But if he was smart, that's what his argument would have been. Not because, they got the advantage now that I once had, not personalizing it like that, but putting it in a context for the society's benefit. So he's not even smart enough to do that.
But he's also probably fearful of everyone else in the EV market at this point, right? Because I mean, he probably going forward, he's just going to be losing market share That's not to say that automatically those other companies will necessarily inflate in the same way that Tesla has inflated, right? A lot of his money comes from not from the fact that he's even producing anything. It just comes from the personality, the fact that he has a Twitter following, the fact that he could, he could wipe out, billions of value back and forth, just like with a tweet, right? So a lot of it is sort of due to that. But I think he is also fearful genuinely of these upstarts, right? There's going to be someone that makes a better EV than Teslas, right? If you look at some of the let's just take a look at what so we have the subreddit, right? So like the top for the past month, right?
Let's run.
Wait, did you see that?
Let's run those Amish off the road.
Wait, do you see what's happening with what's with this? Is this like the autonomous thing? Like, look what's happening.
Yeah.
It's like transforming into a truck. It's a buggy, but it looks like it's about to crash as a huge truck. Like there's a person walking down. Like, what is that? Is this the AI? Is this the AI that was like promised 10 years ago? Very scary stuff. Imagine you're like depending on this in any kind of way. So like, let's look at this other stuff.
To me, the thing with AI, the scariest thing isn't that AI is going to get smart enough to take over the world, is that they're going to be stupid enough and they might accidentally launch nuclear missiles by accident. Because if you have artificial intelligence, you're going to have artificial idiots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, honestly, like in the medium term, this is what people ought to be concerned about. But they're busy making money. Let's look at this post. So I took this group's very helpful advice and upgraded my MYLR to an MYP after 13 months of waiting. I'm guessing it's the type of Tesla, and got a VIN assigned, an appointment to pick up the car tomorrow. Sold my car today, paid balance in full, signed all my paperwork. Everything was all set for my car appointment tomorrow morning. I just got a text that my appointment was canceled and would be rescheduled. Okay. Then Tesla calls and says, "Hey, sorry, looks like your car went to Puerto Rico by mistake and is never coming back." And like when you look at, I pulled up the what is it? We have a bunch of these like the Better Business Bureau, right? Like, I mean, look at this, right? So we have here 284 customer reviews, 1.18 out of 5 stars, right? Tons of negatives, right? This other one here has a total of 8,000 complaints in the past 3 years, and only 3,000 of them have been closed, and it gets a C- grade. So, I mean, look, lots of people that own Teslas, right? I'm sure that many of them are happy, but this like when I look at the results here in terms of these sorts of reviews, Tesla is getting many more than average, like negative sort of interpretations from customers compared to like anything else in the industry. Now, you could say that it's perhaps because Musk has sort of turned himself into a target by being the way that he is, right? But a lot of these, honestly, they do seem to be like totally legitimate reviews. Like these are often extremely detailed, right? And sometimes Tesla responds, but oftentimes it seems like they get a huge backlog and they stop responding. Like I remember back when we were planning this about a month and a half ago, I still saw Tesla responses, but so for a lot of these more recent ones, like it's sort of like nothing is happening, and you have like stuff like these like lemon laundering allegations, right, against the cars, where because of those like non-disclosure agreements that they solve, part of the reason is not only to avoid regulations, it's also that they could perhaps like launder lemons, right? They could sort of sell a completely unusable cars as something that is usable. We have like a very like long set of articles here. If you just look up Tesla lemon laundering, you get a ton of information that when you see the totality, it seems like it's not coincidental at all, right?
Say what you will about old Henry Ford being a racist and an anti-Semite, but the Model T was state of the art and people didn't complain about it for 20 years.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like you would think like the flagship product, right, would like I saw like videos of like people that just bought like one of these cars like over 100,000, And so you'd sort of go on, and they'd put a video of like playing with like like the playing with some of the, well, there's no buttons, right? It's all kind of like electronic, but like playing with whatever you can manually sort of touch. Things like seem to break apart easily. They sound very cheap, and I mean it's kind of odd, right? Like why would someone who has this flagship product do this to their customers, right? And I think the answer is kind of obvious, but it's not obvious to the fanboys.
Well, I mean, you have a section in your notes here about Musk's positives. What are his positives? I've never seen anything.
Well,
I
well,
mean,
the only positive.
aside from getting supermodels because he's a multi-billionaire, I don't see any positives in his life, much less the world.
Well, the only positive that I could think of is what I alluded to earlier, which is maybe he did jumpstart, the sort of like EV revolution by about like 4 or 5 years, right? But over the course of 10 to 20 years, it's not going to matter, right? These things were going to go mainstream one way or the other, and the constraints would always be where the constraints are, which is material constraints. How fast can you get the stuff out of the earth, right? How damaging is this extraction to the environment? How damaging are these factories, right? That was always a constraint from day one, but maybe he did jump started by a few years. But look, that cat is out of the bag a long time ago. We know that EVs exist. We know that it could be subject to these sorts of hyperinflated, kind of stock valuations. So since we know those things are true, it's kind of like he could sort of disappear and it wouldn't matter, because Toyota, GM, all these companies are also now phasing out those credits, right? Those tax credits, because they're selling cars, and that's going to be the future, right? So, and personally, I'm not even that sold on this idea of EVs. Like, I'm not sure what your opinion on this, Dan. Maybe you could chime in, but to me, EVs feel a little bit like greenwashing, right? Where you start to assume, oh, look, we could sort of do whatever the fuck we want now because we have EVs, right? Nothing's a problem anymore. We could pollute all we want. We could do these emissions because we're going to control emissions by and what you should be doing is you need to have like public investment in infrastructure where the world is less car heavy, less car dependent, right? And that's not happening. If anything, that's kicking that can down the road. So it would be interesting in a couple of decades when all of this gets written about kind of in hindsight, to what extent EVs were, the real deal, how much of it was greenwashing,
Well, a similar thing is happening with the stuff on you put on your roof, the solar panels,
yeah.
because a lot of the early ones, especially now, the second or third generation of solar panels, I forget what the chemical is in the original first ones that came out about 15 years ago, but they have environmental issues once they run the course of their life. So you can't just dump them in a dumpster. I mean, hell, I had to get rid of 2 old TVs. Jessica wanted to get 2 smart TVs. I had to pay what was it? I paid like $85 or something to have the 2 TVs hauled away here in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
In some ways, Texas does some good things, like in that sense. But I have a neighbor 2 or 3 homes down the street from me who has all solar panels up there. But the thing is, it's one of those kinds of things you have to totally incentivize, just like after World War II. If you want GIs to go into the military, you need the GI Bill. If you want people to buy automobiles, you have to, in some ways give them incentives, tax breaks or whatnot. Don't give the tax breaks to the company. Give the tax breaks to me or you or everyone else to buy these cars. Now, generally speaking, electrical vehicles are probably better for the environment than what we have right now or whatnot. But it's lost in the sea of gas-powered vehicles or petrol-powered vehicles if you're not in the U.S. And so it's making a minimal damage. You have to go whole hog into it. I complained about Joe Biden and when we were talking about abortion before. This is, this recent bill that they signed into passage with the global warming. I mean, you're taking not even baby steps. I mean, it's like trying to swim the English Channel. You just dip your toes into the water. I mean, you have to get on this. You have to have you need an FDR type approach to this in terms of, look, this is global warming. This is seriously, like I said, if you want to give Musk back those 200, I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I'm not going to do it just because he's a whiny bitch. But there has to be something for society to get out of it, if we're going to invest in electric vehicles. And it has to be for something other than his ego and his war chest.
Yeah. When I was doing that Iglesias video, I kept saying how there's a huge difference between having some tax incentives. Well, first of all, there's two layers, right? First, there's tax incentives for people versus for companies, right? I mean, we don't know to what extent that these tax incentives for companies are actually going to generate the kind of, like renewables or whatever they're going to do, versus how much of it is just going to be more kind of, essentially it's some convoluted way leading to stock buybacks or whatever it may be. But the second part is there's a difference between like investing through tax incentives versus actual true public investment, right? And one of the truly toxic things about people like Musk is how much he is, he's so compliant, right, when it comes to tax incentives. He didn't bitch a single time theoretically, right, about like the theoretical tax credits back in like 2011 or whatever, 2010, right, when he was actually making use of these tax incentives. I didn't hear a single peep from him about all this shit, all through 2019. But just beyond that, like there's a difference between those kinds of incentives versus actual public investment, right? And when you look at something like the Inflation Reduction Act, you look at the spending and you think like, wow, like this seems kind of substantial, right? Ignoring the fact that it's already like moving Biden's own goalposts from 2020 in terms of what he wants to do from the environment. But that spending, if it's all kind of like tax credits for companies, that's not going to do the things that you want it to do long term, right? And recently we've been, just simply because like no one has the appetite to raise taxes, period. What's been happening is instead any kind of spending is done specifically, through this means, right? It's tax credits. It's not actual like long-term, year-by-year public spending that cannot go away, that cannot be negotiated down, that cannot be fucked with in any way, right? And that's really where the future is. But
and if you have government investment, going back to FDR, alphabet soup, my dad was in the CC camps. This was taking poor people, poor young men from the inner cities of New York, Chicago, Boston, Philadelphia, DC, Baltimore, all along the East Coast, sending them out. They were building roads, building national parks. You can go to national parks and see mountain trails that were built 80 years ago, 85 years ago by people like my dad. If you want to do this public investment, and you do it, and then you can also put clamps. You can on things and say, okay, Musk, you want to get subsidies and what? Well, you're going to have to treat your workers a certain way. You're going to have to not stand in the way if they want to have a union vote or whatnot. And not only Musk, but everyone else. But that's the thing. This is the thing that individual companies, capitalism without these boundaries cannot work in the macro. If I could just imagine if Musk and 100 years from now, the Elon Musk of 100 years from now, and he's actually out there in the asteroids and whatnot. Imagine some asshole company, well, we're going to blow up this asteroid. It's only 5 miles across, and we're going to take the diamonds and the rubies inside of it. Oh, wait a second. A year later, we blew up this asteroid, and now a 5-mile or a 2-mile chunk of that asteroid is headed towards Earth. Whoops. There was no governmental Earth oversight there, and now we have a dinosaur event, the asteroid KT impact thing. Just because, this is why you need government. And I've said it many times before. I'll say it once more: is that despite what you can say about government, the government is the only thing that protects people from their other. Government serves only one purpose: to provide for people what they can't for themselves, whether it's constabulary, military, whether it's doctors and setting the laws about this, that, or that's what government does. And people like Musk want to get rid of that because they want to be de facto emperors. They want to be feudal lords. And I'm not willing to let that feudal lord blow up asteroids, nuke Mars, or just piss and moan because he has to play by the same rules everyone else has to.
Yeah, I mean, going back to this whole idea of like personal responsibility, right? I can imagine even in that situation, right? If you have like a 2 mile chunk coming to Earth, right? They're not going like no one is going to sort of like step up to the plate and say like, okay, we have to do this and this, right? It would only be like under force of a gun, right? You would have to force companies to sort of give their resources, all right, to sort of avert disaster.
And
There,
personal responsibility. You talked about all of his kids. Now, if Elon Musk was a 50-year-old black man who worked part time and sat on his stoop during the summer drinking gin at night, and he had a dozen kids, that would be bad. And it wouldn't be bad simply because he couldn't afford to do it, but it would be bad because those
yeah,
people this, those people that. But Elon Musk, he can afford it, but he can do it. But in the long run, the carbon footprint of that semi-employed black fellow who's poor and his kids is going to be the same, or it's actually going to be a lot less than
lower, yeah,
Elon
lower.
Musk. Far, far. So we should have more semi-employed black people reproducing than feckless, idle, rich white motherfuckers. We aren't even part of this country, by the way. I'll take that. I'll take a black American rather than the South American creep any
Yeah.
day.
It's kind of funny, like when you see how conservatives like
South
this,
African, I'm sorry, not South
uh,
American.
when you see how conservatives talk about, like who's an American and who's not, right? American problems, like they would like consciously, right, consider Elon Musk to be more American than either Black Americans. Like one thing that's very common is like when he's like, oh look, the murder rate in America is so bad. Like, isn't that so terrible? What can we do about this? And they say, well, the murder rate actually isn't so bad if you remove all Black people from this equation. And it's like, yeah, I said in America, the American murder rate. Black people are Americans in America, right? There's always this kind of like implicit idea that, it's kind of this exotic problem. And that's because they sort of understand you bring that problem in via slavery, right? And you don't want to deal with it, right? You don't want to deal with it fairly and with dignity. So always in the back of their minds, it's kind of like they're trying to suppress the guilt, right?
And these people are the first ones to lecture about black on black crime.
Yeah,
Well, let's see. Who was the guy? Bernie Madoff. How many people did Bernie Madoff affect? I would say this: if you took the most violent, bloody Crip killer of all time, or my guess is Bernie Madoff did a lot more damage than
of
any of
course.
any individual Crip.
Yeah. Or like, if you want to talk about even like more recently, the black on black murder rate. Okay, well, in 2020, 2021, how many people were killed due to Trump's inaction on coronavirus? We had what, maybe 10, thousand Black Americans that were killed by, through violence. And we had, how many of them were killed literally due to this virus that was in many substantial respects preventable, right? In terms of the body count, right? And it's all these things, right, that pile up that they're very like not sexy, right? People don't view pollution, right, whether it's like pollution in water, pollution in the air, these things, like, look, like in fucking Jamaica, right, like walking around and you go to like the most oppressive part of Jamaica where the sun is just beating at you, right? We have this kind of
Jamaica,
like,
Queens, not the island.
yeah, Jamaica, Queens. And well, some parts of Jamaica, Queens, have a murder rate similar to parts of Jamaica, the island. And if you go to some of those places, like we have like a de facto, we had that kind of metaphorical born on the wrong side of the tracks. We have literal tracks here for the LIRR, right? And once you go past those tracks, right, now you're in this kind of industrial no man's land. And if you live there, the pollution from those factories, to the extent that they're even around there, from the trucks are idling, they're not going to kill you right away, but maybe you're going to get a heart attack 10 years earlier than you would have. Maybe you're going to get a stroke 20 years earlier. All these things really add up to the tens of thousands, to the hundreds of thousands, to the millions, right? But the human mind, right? Human beings are so terrible at thinking probabilities. They go to like the sexiest things, like literal like murder, right? This is the only thing that they can understand. So this is why they construct an entire politics around this thing. Let's do you want to, since we mentioned COVID, do you want to pivot to some of the dumb shit that he was saying about COVID,
Well,
right?
yeah, then we can get in. I do want to talk into the replacement and simulation theories too.
Yeah. Here was the tweet I was talking about earlier. Elon Musk. This is March 19th, 2020. Based on current trends, probably close to zero new cases in the US too by end of April. Now, I don't even have to look at what data point he's talking about. I don't have to look at the study. I don't have to look at like the country or whatever that he's extrapolating from. Maybe it's like someplace in China or whatever. Right. And oh, by the way, if he was in fact using China as an example, China that went full hog, total lockdowns, or like completely try to like, stamp this out as quickly as possible, that would be totally insane, right? Given that he was like so against lockdowns. But anyway, like just like watching this, like, okay, so like I knew people, I remember they were also like kind of conservative, and they were telling me things like, oh, here's this like Nobel laureate who's saying that it seems like COVID now is more or less over. This is when we were around like 70,000 deaths, right? So it was even after this. And immediately it was always like, look, I'm not a fucking Nobel laureate, right? I don't have all this like crazy amount of data on my fingertips, but I have some common sense. It doesn't seem to me like any of this is slowing down. It seems like vaccines are like already still like a year away. There's no indication that Trump is going to take this seriously in terms of lockdowns or whatever else. So why would I make this kind of insane extrapolation that Elon Musk is making, right? It's like, here's a guy that could have, you could have any data that you want, right? He probably has so many data scientists. And if he really wants to get to the nitty gritty of this, he could ask them and he could say, bring this to me. And, he's too lazy to do that. He's here to like blather on social media. He's not here to talk about any sort of reality, right? He's just here to fuck around. So like you had things like this as well. Right. Free America now. This is just a month later. Right. Think about it. We go from zero new cases from a month's time to now we need to have actual lockdowns because clearly this is getting out of control. And his pivot is not, oh, fuck, I fucked up. I was so wrong there. His pivot is, this is insane. We can't do lockdowns. Free America now. Right.
Well, people like him or Trump, earlier in this show, what was it, the last show? I admitted how I miscalculated from something from 20 years ago and didn't account for the stupidity of the common man. But then again, we didn't have the internet having 20 years of evidence, so I was a little handicapped. But he can't even admit, within a month that he was wrong about something. Oh, yeah. I mean, why? I mean, what is it so bad? I mean, why are people? The only reason someone like him would be that invested in perpetuating a lie is because he's making money in some manner. What manner? I don't know. Maybe his stock surged after such.
Well, he first of all, there was that big, back when this was happening, right? We had that huge COVID dump, right? The S&P went from like almost 3,000 to like something like just above 2,000. So his stock price tanked, right? His factories, he knew where this was going, right? Maybe the factories would have to be closed down temporarily, right? So I mean, like obviously, like a lot of people were negatively affected, and they didn't see that the money that was being pumped at the time would lead to like higher stock prices. But like at the time, it's that kind of reactive behavior. But I mean, like look at this, right? So this was just a couple months after that. Right. So he's talking about COVID, right, and pre-existing conditions. People are extremely unlikely to die of COVID, SARS-CoV-2 alone. If you have multiple pre-existing health conditions and a weak immune system, then you have significant mortality risk from many diseases, not just COVID, that would otherwise have minor effect. So, I mean, a couple of things. First of all, this is that whole kind of Joe Rogan thing, right, where Joe Rogan's like, look, I'm not anti-vax, but I think if you have like problems with immunity, if you're overweight, please go get vaccinated, right? But if that's in fact what Joe Rogan believes, I mean, look, America is 70% at this point either overweight or obese. So literally just the obesity rate is higher than the total vax rate of America. So just by that pre-existing condition alone, right, how fat people are, we need more people vaxxed and are getting vaxxed. You have the secondary stuff. So outside of that 70%, who is not fat, right, but has maybe asthma or has a heart problem that they do know about or maybe don't know about, right? So lung problems that they do know about or don't know about, immune problems that they do know about or don't know about. And very, very quickly, we're going from 70% to 80% should be vaccinated at the very least to 90%, maybe 95%. Obviously, the rate should be 100%. But just if we're going by the logic of Elon Musk and Joe Rogan, right, in terms of pre-existing conditions, those numbers go up really, really fast. So that's the first part. The second part is, right, he's talking about death, right? But he's conflating death here with that would otherwise have minor effect. Now, I was a little more COVID skeptical than I am now in terms of like, I think now like we have enough evidence to say that COVID will have lasting effects on human beings, even if you're vaccinated, even if you're healthy. You might have, no sense of smell for months or up to a year. My neighbor, right, got COVID, wasn't that sick, was vaccinated, but, couldn't taste for literally a year. Put too much spice in everybody's food. Everybody's like fucking dying from the spices, right? That's going on. You have people that have permanent immune damage that, like even if they're vaccinated and they were healthy otherwise, right? There's all these random effects that people don't have a handle on. I saw a study that said if you catch COVID, and even if it's a mild infection, or even if you don't really feel it that much at all, and you're vaccinated, your brain could still shrink by like 2%, which is roughly 10 years worth of aging. I think we're going to get from the like 2020, 21 pre-vax or even like during vax cohort of people that got infected, we're probably going to get a few decades from now, all this information coming out like, look, these people that were supposed to get dementia, way later, now they're getting it in their 60s, right? Now they're getting it, maybe in their 50s or like something else, right? So, all this kind of like total, all this knowledge at his fingertips. And yet just to be just perpetually wrong and wrong and wrong and wrong, like this, it really,
but
yeah.
the thing is, again, I can have opinions about this or that, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not gonna. There's no Elon Musk, comma M dot D dot or even D dot O dot. So all he's doing is fishing around for shit like that. I mean, it's the height of irresponsibility, because if I did that when I was on Twitter, I've had a few hundred followers, I guess. Elon Musk has probably 10 million or more.
A hundred million.
Okay, yeah. So the level of irresponsibility, and this is, it's just shocking that these people. This is what I would consider ethics here. I mean,
Yeah.
If you have that kind, you don't say that. I don't. I'm not going to opine on things that I have no knowledge on, and it's just absolutely irresponsible. And if you look at him, my guess is I went to the doctor. I got to go to the doctor to get my results from a blood test and a stool test. But otherwise, I was in good health. I had a lot of stuff, and my BMI was something like just in the green zone, which was good for my height. I'll tell you, Elon Musk. I said him. He'd be considered overweight or obese from what I see.
Yeah.
So he's giving advice and not even recognizing that he doesn't have he's not even obese from current photos.
And I mean, look at this, right? So this was March of 2021, right? This is just when the vaccines started getting rolled out, right? And this is what he says. So we're not even talking about the boosters yet. He's literally just talking about the vaccines. For sure, wise for elderly or immunocompromised to take the vaccine. Some debate about the second jab, though. Quite a few negative reactions to that. Again, we're not talking about, the booster. We're literally talking about the second vaccine dose that is required, right? That's literally like for the vaccine to be effective, you simply need that second dose, right? You can't just say, I'm going to take the first and not take the second, right? Because that's just a very limited utility, right? And this is just totally pulled out of his ass, right? There is no some debate about the second jab. It literally didn't happen. This is just total nonsense, right? So he's like flirting with this like COVID skepticism, even when that's like, already beating a dead horse. So we had the lockdowns. We're getting the vaccines now, and still like he's trying to be this like edgy contrarian with these like totally asinine takes. Like this is so like unscientific. There was no debate about this. This is just pure stupidity.
And because he's rich, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got here with Elon. I mean, if you got anything else to say and like jump. Oh, do you want to do the simulation shit?
And the great replacement theory. Those are the two things where, I mean, yeah, he's a South African. Don't give me this anti-apartheid. I think the whole great white replacement theory. I mean, that's classic apartheid. That's the classic 1980s apartheid type thinking. I mean, it comes from people who are white minorities. That's a white minority kind of fear that had to be bred into him in childhood, inculcated by his daddy.
Yeah. So I mean, let's jump on the USA birth rate thing, right?
Minimum
So
sustainable levels for around 50. Sustainable for what?
yeah.
I mean, the USA was founded when it broke free. I think there was something like 2.5, 3 million, maybe not even that many people. What's sustainable? Is Iceland not sustainable? Iceland has 250,000 people, and they avoid inbreeding. Hell, I watched a documentary of the Faroe Islands, which are between Scotland and Iceland. They have 50-some thousand people. That's sustainable. You're telling me 330 million people in the U.S. isn't sustainable? Now, what he's really saying is white people.
Yeah.
But that's factually wrong too. The white race isn't going to disappear. You know, the blonde and redheaded people aren't going to disappear. I mean, it's just nonsense.
So I mentioned this in the previous discussion. There was some guy under the Christopher Langan video who he wrote a comment, and then after I responded, of course, he deleted it, but it was something along the lines of, well, I accept Christopher Langan's like sort of perspective on, the great white replacement, right? Elon Musk doesn't use that language himself because he's at a high enough level where he doesn't do this sort of like overt statements.
Langan's a bouncer. Musk is the CEO.
Exactly. Langan is the bouncer, right? So Langan didn't have to do the dog whistles, right? He could just be explicit. So anyway, this guy was like, Langan believes the great replacement, which is this idea that the elites of various white countries, like places in Europe or America or whatever, they're letting in all these immigrants for the sake of replacing the native white population. And there's different theories as to why this would be, in fact, the case. But anyway, that's what they believe. And what I pointed out as well, white people around the world, right, depending on which estimates you look at, they're as low as something like 7% of the world population. And because they happen to be the wealthiest and the most educated in the world, they're having the fewest number of kids. So I told them, unless you're willing to sire personally 500 kids, don't fucking like talk about what's sustainable, what's not, because are you willing to actually like put your money or your sperm rather where your mouth is?
And that gets back to abortion. You want to get rid of abortion? If that's what they really want to do, educate women, empower women, make a level playing field financially, so that a woman isn't financially dependent upon a man.
Yeah.
But that's another thing, to get back to the abortion thing. They want women totally dependent upon men. This is the same thing with this great replacement theory. It's just a bunch of nonsense, because and I'll guarantee you, someone like Musk, just like any slave owner, I'm sure he's had hot-looking Persian women, hot-looking Argentines, hot-looking Vietnamese or whatnot. The top supermodels from here, there, or everywhere. He can get, if he wanted to boff fucking what's her name? Not Jennifer Lopez, the other one, the Hispanic Mexican actress with big breasts. I forget her name. But if he wanted to do it, I'm sure he could get a date with her. What is it? What is this idea that pale skin is going to? I mean, who really goes around? I have never gone around thinking, oh, I've got pale skin. Oh, that means I'm better than that small little Asian guy with the weird eyes. I mean, who really thinks about that except people who are inculcated into this bigotry? And so I think that whole thing about Daddy and him being against apartheid, you're seeing this slowly. This is like a bad stew, and the stuff is slowly, the negatives are slowly oozing out of him, because now he's gotten to the point where he doesn't really give a shit. It's obviously a racist thing to even believe in.
Yeah, and also you just wonder, like, when a statement like, or rather word like sustainable is used, what exactly are you referring to? So
Yeah.
are you just talking about the minimum sustainable levels to replace, white people with more white people? Are you talking about sustainability in the sense that, well, over time the population is going to age out, and that's going to cause problems? Or are you just talking about the fact that you're going to have fewer people to buy your fucking trinkets? And, like, are we just talking about in a gross sense of just,
he believes,
like gross domestic product?
endless growth.
Yeah, exactly. Are we just talking about
why we want to go to
endless
space.
growth? Yeah.
We want to go to space so that we can destroy the asteroid field. We can nuke Mars. Well, we can fuck up the moon, nuke Mars, destroy the asteroid field. I wouldn't be surprised if Musk, in his wildest delusions, thinks that, like the film 2010, maybe we could get endless energy if we just ignite Jupiter somehow. Make it a star.
Yeah. Let's see. And also just to like briefly talk about the Twitter deal before we go to like his takes on like simulation theory or whatever. So Musk, when the market was a bit better earlier in the year, right? He offered to take Twitter, to buy Twitter for 44 billion, and and so this guy Steven Selmler, I contribute to his Patreon. He has a Patreon that is all focused on like spending when it comes to like the military, when it comes to like security and all those kinds of grifts. He does a lot of good analyses and stuff like that. So I would recommend people check him out. But anyway, so the tweet that he's writing about the Twitter deal is the amount Elon Musk just paid for Twitter, 44 billion, is nearly equal to Biden's proposed climate budget, 44.9 billion, in case anyone's wondering how seriously we're taking the climate crisis, right?
Well,
so
of course, ignorant incels gossiping is certainly more important than global warming.
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Like, just to put these numbers in perspective, right? So granted, this is like this is a pre IRA, but regardless, the fact that even as a president, right, the Democratic Party, we're the party of science. We care about the environment. We care about the future. Blah blah blah. For someone who is the leader of this party, right, to have this like minuscule proposal on the one hand, and then on the other hand, to have Elon Musk, who is the world's, like, he fancies himself, and this is what other people say about him, the world's like leading environmentalist, right? For him to put his money into Twitter, which is just a means of kind of like inflating the ego as opposed to doing anything worthwhile, as opposed to bring that money somehow back into the climate, whether it's EVs or something else. Maybe, EVs to him just become a single part of that, entire sort of fraction, right, of everything that you want to do for the climate. Maybe he could use that money, for some other means like this. And that this didn't even cross his mind, right? People would say like, well, Elon Musk, he already has an EV company, so what is the point? Like, it simply wouldn't add to the bombast, right? That is he's become so dependent on for his money, right? So,
well, as far as the Democrats' 4 words, Nancy Green Dream Pelosi. She is such a bullshitter, and that was one of the few times she actually told the truth here. So I see you got the simulation thing up here. So yeah, we're gonna let's watch it and do some comments. Why, that's only 10 minutes?
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah.
There's a sort of a philosophic concept that a sufficiently advanced civilization will be able to create a simulation. Yeah, maybe you've answered this before. A simulation.
I've had so many simulation discussions; it's crazy.
Okay, so because
in fact, it got to the point where basically every conversation was the AI/simulation conversation. And
he's like a little fucking kid. What do you mean every conversation has been AI or simulation? Do you really have nothing else in your life? It's just so insane.
Brother and I finally agreed that we would ban such conversations if we were ever in a hot tub. Okay. That was like, because that really kills the magic.
Hot tub, so the idea is, right, any sufficiently advanced civilization could create a simulation that's like our existence, and so the theory follows that maybe we're in the simulation. Have you thought about this? And
A lot.
are we? Are we?
Even in hot tubs.
To know,
so much so
it
it had to be banned from a hot tub.
Okay.
It's not the sexiest conversation.
Are we in? Are we in?
I mean, I think here's, in my mind, like the strongest argument for us being in a simulation, probably being in a simulation, I think is the following. That 40 years ago, we had Pong, like 2 rectangles and a dot. That was what games were. Now, 40 years later, we have photorealistic 3D simulations with millions of people playing simultaneously, and it's getting better every year. And soon we'll have virtual reality, augmented reality. If you assume any rate of improvement at all, then the games will become indistinguishable from reality. Indistinguishable.
Let's just stop it right here for now. Because number one, look at what he's doing. He first off, he's making for an investor to say that he's making, past returns are no guarantee for future returns. So even if we were to accept that any advanced society would have the same aims as human beings, even though they grew up, they arose on different planets, evolved differently, maybe made of different materials, whether that material is silicon versus carbon-based, whether that's dark matter-based, and the whole thing is just ridiculous. There's just no way for, so he doesn't even, he's making this, if we assume, he's assuming everything here. This is anthropocentrism at its absolute worst, and it's being done by an ignorant guy who doesn't even realize it's anthropocentrism.
Yeah, he's talking about how much he's thought about it, but he's never, that's the crazy part. And this kind of gets into kind of like the core of his deficiencies, like as a thinker, right? He says how much he's thought about it. This is something that he plays with in his mind over and over again, but he's never stopped to actually consider some of those like baseline assumptions, right? For you to like go off in this kind of theory, you need to make a ton of assumptions that very well simply may not be true. Right. And he does absolutely no work in this conversation or elsewhere for that matter. I've never seen him sort of do any kind of work to establish these assumptions as in any way fair assumptions, valid assumptions. Right. It's just like zero interest. Right. It's kind of like what he believes, what he would do in this or that situation necessarily other civilizations would, other species would, right. Other life forms would. Right. It's just,
That's like me saying I dreamt of having sex with Halle Berry and Sofia Vergara in a 3-way. Doesn't mean that every man out there would have the same dream.
Yeah. And I mean, like, look, even if you sort of make the argument that, well, maybe the blueprint of that dream might be somewhat similar or maybe something else, but you need to establish some kind of blueprint for actually existing, right? I mean, why would that blueprint exist, right? I could sort of explain why a man would fantasize about a threesome with 2 hot women, but I can't necessarily, give an argument for why a truly advanced civilization that is advanced enough to create simulations, that this is necessarily going to be the route that they go on. I mean, even if you read something like Herman Hesse's Glass Bead Game, right? There's this kind of like theory for what a future art would look like, right? But you see some of the working assumptions as to why that would be the case. And it's not, it's not necessarily like a simulation type of environment, right? So there's no reason to have this assumption to start with, but he doesn't even try to examine that.
And look at the sycophantic people in the audience and on stage with him just laughing. Nothing he said was particularly funny.
Yeah, exactly.
Why are they? Why is that bald old fellow bellowing as if he,
about a conversation, about banning a conversation in the hot tub, as if like they even want to fucking imagine these 2 fucking guys in a hot tub, like it's just
The rate of advancement drops by 1,000 from what it is right now. Then you just say, okay, well, let's imagine it's 10,000 years in the future, which is nothing in the evolutionary scale. So given that
physical
really on a trajectory
animal evolution or natural evolution, that's a totally different thing than computers. So right even there, I mean, it just he's conflating things that he doesn't even realize that he's conflating, and there's no conflation that you can make from that, because they're not similar. Animals have to eat. Animals have to have locomotion. Animals need to exhale. Animals need to respire. A computer system, a simulation, doesn't have to do any of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, that's the thing. Some of these AI researchers, so people like Elon Musk, who believe that there might be some sort of super intelligence that leads to an apocalyptic event of some sort, even if it's as crazy as, all right, we create a machine that against all odds is set to create paper clips, and then eventually turns human beings into paper clips, right? They start assuming the same kind of evolutionary, they have the same kind of evolutionary assumptions that human beings or other sort of living carbon-based creatures would share, right? Which is another thing, right? When I read some of these doomsday scenarios, even those assumptions aren't necessarily obvious to me, right? That we would necessarily have to go in this direction or another direction. But anyway,
distinguishable from reality, and those games could be played on any set-top box or on a PC or whatever, and there would probably be, billions of such, computers or set-top boxes. It would seem to follow that the odds that we're in base reality is 1 in billions.
And look, that's the thing. It literally does not follow that at all. He creates this entire edifice out of thin air, and then he says it would seem to follow. And then to sort of lend credence to his conclusion, he decides to stick a totally arbitrary number on it, right? Anyway, it's just I'm not sure if you want to keep going, but I guess
we don't have to. I mean, it's elephants or turtles all the way up and all the way down. The thing is, I doubt that someone like Elon Musk, even when he's talking seemingly off the cuff like that, he's so reliant on cliches, so reliant on bullshit, so reliant on things that he doesn't even know where. I bet you he doesn't even understand the 1 in a billion. He doesn't understand the turtles or elephants all the way up or down metaphor that I just used. He's someone who gleans. He's a skimmer. He's a gleaner. He's surface level. He's skimming the pellicle of intelligence, but he can't dive deep into the water because the pressure will just crush his little fucking tomato mind.
Yeah. So I mean, we could move. Let's move to.
Well, you had one other thing. You said there was something that he had a take on popular arts.
Oh yeah. So yeah, I mean, we could maybe let's finish off with some of that funny stuff on the arts or whatever, and let's move into something a little bit darker, which is his kind of his take on politics and stuff. So let me see where they begin. Okay, so here, Elon Musk, right? So he shared this in earlier this year in April. And this is the image, right? This is his meme, and this is what a lot of people actually believe about politics, right? And here we have some idiot that's another a check mark with 1.5 million followers agreeing with this, but basically, the image says year 2008, 2012, and 2021. So in year 2008, we have something that says left, center, and right. On the left is my fellow liberal and me. Right. Me is a little bit closer to the center, and the conservative is on the right. And basically progressively going down to 2012 and 2021, the fellow liberal, keeps going further and further and further left, while he is staying at the center, or perhaps moving closer to the center. And by 2021, this guy is past the center, right, closer to the right. And the person on the very far left now is labeled as a woke progressive, and he's shouting at the person who's past the center, bigot, right? So he believes that this is in fact what has substantively happened to politics over the last, honestly, this kind of ridiculous, right? That he sort of labels this as 2008. This kind of explains everything, doesn't it? The sort of fucking worship of Obama, the fact that this belief that all these problems are of recent vintage and have not been in the making for 50, 60 years now. and also the total like relegation of true fundamental issues like economics or whatever, right, as unimportant next to culture war bullshit, next to what happens on Twitter, right, next to what happens like people that are just like terminally online, right, as opposed to people that have to deal with like everyday reality again and again and again. And it's just totally a nap. This is not what has transpired. There's no indication that the Democrats have in any way moved to the left, except on some choice culture war issues, right?
They've been dragged kicking and screaming. If this were a true thing, what it would be a seesaw. The center would be the fulcrum, and then you have the right and left. And what's really happened is that instead of being balanced there, people have actually moved to the left. And so now the right is up top there, and the left is on the bottom, and Trump is crawling up to the top because he's got to be on top because, like I said earlier, on all these major social issues, from college debt forgiveness to free Medicare for all, to basic income, to abortion and this and that, global warming, the people have gone to the what left position. So the center has gotten more left. And I have never, ever bought this idea that the USA is a center-right country. If you actually talk to people dead on and explain to them the issues, what happens here or there, most people will side on what would be considered liberal, the liberal side of or the left, or the progressive side of the ledger. People, they don't, that what is the Flint, Michigan? People don't want their water being fucked up because some company wants to fucking dump shit in the rivers. People want to be able to live a nice 20 or 30 years in retirement and be able to not be broke because they break a hip, let's say, when they're old. People want to not have to carry debt all their life, and on and on and on. So this is the whole thing is bullshit. If that's center in 2021, like I said, the right would be up, the left would be down, and you'd have most of the people there on the left side with with Musk crawling to the top. I mean, it's just such bullshit. In what way is the Democratic Party of 2022 more liberal than? Let's go back to FDR. FDR
yeah, exactly.
was more liberal.
Yeah.
I mean,
and like especially with this kind of like graph.
FDR was for socialized medicine 90 years ago.
Yeah, and I mean, like specifically with this kind of graph, right? The fact that we have like individual years. I mean, we could actually play this out in truly like tangible terms without leaving everything to abstractions. You notice that Musk. Later on when I'm going to show what he's actually saying about politics, the kinds of nonsense that he spouts, like there's no tangibles here, but I mean, we know what the tangibles are. Okay, what's going on in 2008? Obama is running for president, right? He wins the presidency. And what was the platform? The platform was we're going to have Obamacare, and we're going to have a hike in minimum wage. I don't remember what the number was. It wasn't 15, I don't think, but there was supposed to be an increase in minimum wage at the federal level. And we were also supposed to have like a public option, right? So 2008 comes and goes. We get Obamacare. We don't get a hike in minimum wage, right? We don't get the public option. Nothing much at all happens, through 2016, which is obviously why Trump wins. In 2012, right, was that or was that in 2014 that we had the Paris Accords? One of those years, right? So ostensibly, this is something that maybe Elon Musk would support, right? Of course, all Republicans were against this at the time, and they're still against it now. To the extent that those accords even matter, it seems like they didn't. But ostensibly, you would think the world's premier environmentalist would be into that, but he wasn't. 2012 rolls around, nothing really happens. That's the thing. Like we have like the left running left, but what exactly is happening, right? We have premiums going up. Any conversation about universal health care is sort of being, kicked down the road. We had at that point already this, this other dumb fuck intervention in Libya, which takes a country that was something like $30,000 or $40,000 median yearly income down to something like a $4,000 a year median income after the illegal intervention. 2021 rolls around. What do we get? Oh, we're going to run the same 2008 Democratic Party platform, which was a hike in the minimum wage and a public option. Guess what? No fucking hike in minimum wage, no public option. None of this other shit that was promised happens, right? what exactly are we talking about when we're talking about running left? Are we talking about bathroom bills? Are we talking about transgender people in fucking sports? Is that really like, okay, Elon Musk is supposed to be this environmentalist. Why doesn't he see what the actual stakes are? The true stakes for the world, not this dumb shit that Democrats want to talk about, that Republicans want to talk about, right? They're both feeding each other into this, and the actual stuff isn't being discussed. So like that's why you could have tweets like this. This is what he says, back in May. In the past, I voted Democrat because they were mostly the kindness party. What an asinine view of politics. You think Democrats were the kindness party, but they have become the party of division and hate. So I can no longer support them, and I will vote Republican. Now watch their dirty tricks campaign against me unfold. So first of all, this was tweeted just hours before that woman broke her NDA to say that she was being sexually harassed on a plane by Elon Musk, who like wanted some sort of like, I don't know, it was like a sexual massage or like something, whatever it was. So this was tweeted out beforehand. So weirdly enough, like he's sort of like moving towards the Republican Party. Partly because, like, look, what he says is kindness. What he's talking about is they're not kind to me anymore. When I remember Obama in office, I used to have that, $7,500 EV credit. Now I don't have it anymore, right? They're now the party of division and hate. So he's voting for a Republican. Again, the world's premier environmentalist is voting for people who say that climate change either is not happening or is not man-made, or if it is happening and it is man-made, it's something that no one can ever do anything about. Watch and see, right? It's just like there's no logic here. I voted for Maya Flores. First time I ever voted Republican. She had some sort of like QAnon fucking like controversy, like months ago, right? These people are so like totally radical right wing, right? Think about this graph, right? And think about where these Republicans in fact are. They did not stay right. They became more and more radical, right? They're banning abortion. They're seeing a year of like total fucking climate meltdowns. Everything is burning up. They're doing nothing.
Lindsey Graham is attacking cops after mouthing off about the George Floyd thing, and we can't defund the cops. Let's attack the FBI. He doesn't even want to answer a subpoena where he's been told by a judge he has to appear. And I'll tell you, look on this left, center, right thing. Probably about 40% of the way in, still on the left side, would be Dwight Eisenhower in 1956 running for president. Mm-hmm. And right next to him would be Dick Nixon throughout his career.
Yeah.
They would be considered flaming liberals. Richard fucking Nixon, who at the time was considered the worst president, the most paranoid president and whatnot. And now he looks like a liberal savior compared to the Republicans today. That's such bullshit. I'm not saying I disagree with a lot of things with leftists on many areas, but like I said, Richard Nixon and Dwight Eisenhower were supporting what would be considered a left-wing agenda in 2020 or 2024, 60 years ago.
Yeah, at a time when the stakes were low.
What happened to the Republicans? What happened to Teddy Roosevelt Republicans? What happened to Nixon Republicans or Eisenhower Republicans? What happened to the Republicans from between those two extremes, between Roosevelt and Nixon? What happened to Republicans that actually had brains, actually cared about the environment? Teddy Roosevelt, the biggest environmentalist in U.S. history. Whatever happened to that kind of Republican?
It's just so insane just how little and I really do wonder like how much of this is just like purely like self-serving culture war shit, right? And how much of this is just like total like just like a lack of understanding. Look at this tweet. The acid test for any two competing socioeconomic systems is which side needs to build a wall to keep people from escaping. That's the bad one. Well, I would add to this thought experiment. What about a socioeconomic system that is building walls to keep people from coming in, because they have busily over the past few centuries drained everything from the outside world that does not belong, right, to what's internal to these borders. Now those people that have been totally drained, they are now clamoring to get the fuck in because you took everything from them, right? Whether it's, South America, guess what? California used to be part of Mexico. Texas used to be part of Mexico. New Mexico obviously used to be part of Mexico. You think it's a coincidence that they're dealing with all these fucking problems while we get for free an entirely new unit of GDP? I mean, imagine if like California and Texas were axed out of the United States. Imagine how horrible this would be for, American GDP and stuff like that, right? It's these totally like just totally thoughtless comments, right? Just completely coming out of his ass.
Well, I get sick and tired of hearing about everyone wants to come to America. Yeah, if they're in a dictatorship, no one from France wants to come to America. No one from Norway wants to come to America. No one from Canada wants to come to America. People from Hong Kong, our buddy Xinjiang Xiang, I don't think he wants to come to live in America. This idea that America is the shining city on the hill. Yeah, if you grew up in dirt, it might seem that way. But again, for every foreigner, every not expatriate, every person born in another country that comes to America that makes it, you don't hear about the 99,999 that failed. And a lot of those people too end up going back there. I once had a conversation with someone from another country that was talking about how people came there, and then 20, 30 years later, they wanted to go back to their original country because of the racism here in this country. So that's just a load of shit.
Yeah. Let's see if there's any other. No. So we're done with the political stuff. Was there anything else?
Popular art.
Oh yeah, Yeah. So let's get to some of the fun stuff, right? So this is what he's saying about Elden Ring, which is a video game, Dan. He says Elden Ring, experienced in its entirety, is the most beautiful art I have ever seen. So let me just play you a little bit of Elden Ring so you can see what he's talking about. Dan, are you excited?
I'm totally in a simulated reality watching. I feel like I'm there. I can feel the wind.
All right, this is like the William Glass poem about the church.
Born heir.
Did you hear that? Mighty dragon, thou art the true-born heir. This is the dialogue.
Lend me thy strength, O kindred. Deliver me unto greater heights.
Right, the writing is just really fucking insane here.
Well,
I mean, this is comic book level. I mean, what?
Plain as a lord.
Oh, some kind of spider-like creature or something?
Command
6 fingers, how many limbs?
I am the lord of all that is golden.
Like the writing is just like video game writing is so horrific, right? This is just
video games fucking constantly and reproducing. I mean, he's got an endless child. He's managed to extend his childhood.
Yeah. I'm done with the toy called Earth. Let's go to Mars, right? Just literally just arrested development, right, all the way down, right?
So.
All right, we're about to get the art, Dan. Dan, are you excited? Uh-oh.
I'm getting nostalgic for Pong.
All right. Well, you get it. Okay, that's his very mature take on art. right? Here's something that he said about Netflix that I thought was funny. So this is in response to Netflix shares crater 20% after company reports it's lost subscribers for the first time in more than 10 years, right? And he's saying the woke mind virus is making Netflix unwatchable. Now, I don't know when you, Dan, canceled your Netflix subscription, but honestly, like, it's been years since I watched, and it's not because of wokeism. It's because these are just bullshit shows, right? They're not interesting. They're not well made, right? They're
Well, we canceled Netflix when we only watched the last year or two. We were about 15 or 16 that had documentaries. Now go to the Criterion channel.
Yeah, exactly. If you have Criterion, why would you need Netflix? I mean, you will never.
Everything that's on Netflix, for example, we got 2 smart TVs, the Roku channel, TCL channel. You can watch that stuff. I was telling Jessica, she just did a review for you for the original Terminator. I said, you have to mention that James Cameron plagiarized Harlan Ellison. So I said, we can, because we have the Outer Limits on that. I said, I got to show her the 2 episodes that the original Terminator was based on. But the original Terminator, I mean, that's a good, solid sci-fi film. Even if it's plagiarized, it's still way above this.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like, you'll never ever get through everything in the Criterion channel to begin with, right? So why don't you just do something that's like, it's harder to watch, right? It requires more out of you in terms of, your own brain's inputs, right? For you to actually
I'll bet you
Musk
thinks Akira Kurosawa is some computer programmer he could hire. He's this hotshot from Korea. Oh no, he's not Korean. Japan. Oh, he's the hotshot from Japan. No, he's a dead filmmaker, you fuck.
Yeah, so it's like, and he's so obsessed with culture wars that he's even like he's only able to view what's happening with Netflix through the lens of his own kind of ideological blinders. Like, he's not even capable of like understanding things, through art, right, as art. So anyway, that's maybe the way that we could end that part of the conversation. I mean, I don't have too much else to say about.
I mean, here we've got all of these kinds of people. I mean, I mentioned Akira Kurosawa. Does anyone really think that in 100 years anyone's going to remember Elon Musk? Who was the richest guy 100 years ago? Does anyone remember? Was it Carnegie was dead by the time? I guess it was Rockefeller. I mean, big deal. What did they really contribute?
And you can only say that because they're still part of the conversation because it's only 100 years ago. But go further back, right? Then totally you don't know 500, 1,000, 10,000. Now,
as I've often said, Shakespeare, Picasso, Orson Welles, or pick any 3. Name me the richest guy in their state or county when they were born, or province. No one remembers because they didn't accomplish anything of any lasting value. And Elon Musk has not accomplished anything. And if he does accomplish anything, it'll probably be negative. Hopefully he's not going to be able to nuke Mars. But I don't think he's going to, and I don't think anyone would allow him to take nukes up there. And that's another thing. How the fuck are you going to get nukes, 36 million miles at the minimum?
Yeah, I mean, without displacing or having at least the danger of displacing one, right?
And imagine if you were on a rocket ship trying to take nukes to do that, or whatever kind of space vehicle, and you got hit by a softball-sized little asteroid. Boom, you're stuck. You might be stranded out there midway between the planets for the rest of your life with nuclear weapons that if a solar flare hits you, boom.
And nobody would ever know, right? Because you'd be subject to an NDA. Right. All right, so this was what was this, 30 artifact number 30 on Elon Musk. The website is automachination.com. The Patreon is patreon.com/automachination. There's already a bunch of stuff up there if you'd like to see. There's a 3-hour video of me just talking about my novel, reading it out loud. If you're someone that's interested in writing, you might find it useful in some way. More stuff coming next week, and we're gonna keep building. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you guys soon.